Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Perfect World based on novel. So let's start. Formation banners fluttered about the 3,000 bluestone paths. There were several dozen of them, and once activated, large numbers of deities would die if they accidentally stepped into them. These killing formations were assembled after working for several days, as well as using up a small mountain of heavenly materials. Their power was matchless. If not for Shahao killing immortal palaces inheritor Di Chong, and then paying several clans a visit in Radiant City, he definitely wouldn't have been able to gather so many divine materials. Their value was impossible to assess. We can still use these things later. They've all been turned into magical stands and formation banners, so if we switch locations, they can still be used. The divine striking stone said. It was so tired it was about to collapse. All of these things used up a lot of mental and physical effort. At the center of the 10 great formations was a simplified version of the little fatty's killing formation, because with his current cultivation realm, there was no way he could carve out all of the symbols. He used his divine senses to carve the insides of the divine materials to prevent those outside from prying into them. When the great formation was activated, this place immediately became different. Formation banners fluttered about, Dao platforms shone, forming several tens of layers of barriers of light, protecting this place. Shahao sat at the center. Are you too reliable? Don't refine me along with everything else now, relax, that region is extremely safe. It won't be affected. The divine striking stone said. I'll use the bluestone ancient path's symbol's flame to burn my body. So will that hinder or damage the great formations? Shahao asked. I am going to remove the central formation stand for now so that the great formation can't activate. When the irregularities truly happen, it'll immediately return to its position and activate it. The divine striking stone said. They carefully discussed and studied the situation, thinking up all types of issues that might arise. When they were sure that nothing unexpected would happen, only then did they begin to enter closed-door cultivation. Shahao brought out everything he had for them to take care of, because when the over 1,000 great Dao symbol flames burned his body, withering away his flesh, his body would be half destroyed, and even things he carried on him would be hard to protect. He only held 2 half ginseng fruits in his mouth, so that it could preserve his life at the most crucial point. The Dao comprehension stone landed on the bluestone path, making this place tremble. However, it didn't crush this place. The strange stone was an ashy brown color, looking extremely ordinary, but actually had wondrous effects. Shahao sat on it, preparing to use this to enter isolation cultivation, good stuff. Outside, regardless of whether it was the divine striking stone, Little Fatty, or Qingyi, they were all extremely happy. There was a pile of bone books, all of them insights of those before them. This time, Shahao killed Immortal Palace Inheritor, collecting all of the precious items he had on him. There was no lack of divine treasures. Unfortunately, there weren't his sect's greatest divine abilities and other things, leaving him a bit regretful. However, if the rest of the world were to know about these spoils, it would definitely be enough to drive them crazy from jealousy. After who knew how much time had passed, 1,500 streaks of fiery light appeared in Shahao's surroundings, surpassing the past. It slowly reached 1,600, with the revival of the Supreme Being Blood, my ability to resist the fiery light has increased by quite a bit. Shahao was surprised. If it was in the past, he would have already been scorched black, burnt into a withered state, but this wasn't the case yet. However, with the passage of time, the fiery light flourished even greater. When it reached the 1,600th streak, he suffered serious injuries. His skin opened and his flesh split apart. Symbols covered his body densely, rushing into his muscles and bones. The furnace cauldron refined from the void distorted at this time. His body within almost turned into a pile of charcoal, a paste, already completely cooked, meat fragrance wafting through the air. I really want to drink and get drunk again. The little rabbit cried out. Fortunately, Shahao was isolated from them, unable to hear these things, or else he would have definitely given her a beating. When the symbols cleansed the flesh, the bluestone paths released the sound of scriptures, Shahao's body trembled. He resonated with the Dao, immersing himself into it. In the end, he released a roar, the furnace breaking. He separated from the countless great Dao symbols. His comprehension was deep. He sat in the void, descending onto the Dao comprehension stone. The 1,600 streaks of fiery light retreated. That place became quiet and without any sound. He became cold, unmoving as he silently comprehended the Tao, too scary. This is self-torture, gambling with one's life. Cao Yusheng couldn't help but sigh. Then, he began to comprehend his own Tao. This time, Shahao was faster than before, not taking up that much time, but the injuries this process created were just as serious. The half-divine fruit in his mouth turned into liquid, entering his body to recover his injured body. The divine striking stone sent over a few holy medicines and half-divine fruits to help him quickly recover. Unexpectedly, the irregularity didn't occur. Just like that, Shahao continued his process of isolation cultivation. After his injuries healed, he guided the Great Tao's symbol flames to refine his body, using heaven and earth as a furnace, the Great Tao as flame to refine his true self and transcend. 1,800 streaks, 1,900, 2,000, it's coming. When 2,100 streaks were refined and Shahao recovered through half-divine fruits, a mysterious wave of energy appeared, surrounding this place. The divine striking stone and the others entered the formation together, activating the central formation stand, creating boundless barriers of light that began to surround this place. An ancient lamp arrived in a slow and unhurried manner. Even though it was shining, it still made one feel extremely cold, carrying an ominous aura. It entered the formation, suspending itself 100 zhong above Shahao's head. The divine striking stone cried out strangely. This was too weird. The formation it laid unexpectedly didn't serve any use. That ancient lamp disregarded everything, entering like a ghost. What is going on? Cao Yusheng's expression changed. Qingyi directly activated the green moon, scattering out its radiance in preparation of using this ancient flame to burn away all things sinister. It really is strange. The little rabbit was incomparably nervous. Qingyi, the divine striking stone, and others all felt a chill inside. The two creatures were both similar to Shahao. Now that they appeared one after the other, how was he supposed to even fight? The void sky divine vine stuck out its head, breaking out into a cold shiver before hiding back into the heaven and earth pouch, not daring to come out again. This time, Shahao became silent again. After a brief period of stillness, he erupted with endless symbols to fight a bloody battle. This place erupted with chaos. Tao sounds rumbled and precious techniques rushed into the skies as he fought in a berserk manner. They are just similar, the precious techniques aren't the exact same as what Shahao uses. They only look alike. Qingyi said, "What will happen if we take action?" Cao Yusheng asked. The little rabbit thought for a bit, and then pointed out a finger. Great yin force turned into a streak of divine light, entering the battlefield. Another type of symbol appeared in the void and rushed murderously at Shahao. A streak of divine light landed on the strange creature's great halberd, and then another streak landed on Shahao's halberd. Sparks flew everywhere. No good, we cannot hastily take action. This is likely a type of natural law, a mysterious power that is at work here. Qingyi said. Shahao bitterly tried to think of different methods. He used the method from last time, suddenly linking up different types of precious methods and attacking crazily, wishing to overlay them like last time, to kill these two strange existences. In the end, it was useless. They were dispelled. The two creatures joined hands, quickly inflicting serious injuries on him. Right now, it was as if he was fighting against two of himself. This was a challenge of his limit, challenging the limit. Do I need to surpass myself? Shahao's entire body was covered in blood. The halberd strike, just now, almost hacked him into two. Shahao released a roar. His body shone, linking up the heavens and moving the earth. All types of divine force symbols blossomed. He stirred up all of his body's vitality to resist these two creatures. However, he was still struck flying, his body in tatters and almost dying miserably. My limit is also their limit. This can't be considered a breakthrough, have to find some other path. Shahao quickly thought to himself. He fought a bloody battle against these two while carrying heavy wounds on his body. The supreme being blood in his body flowed, silently moving about, merging two types of symbols together. They continuously evolved, limit, break. One of them was struck flying by him, but the other almost severed off his right arm, the halberd blade even entering his bones. Two light sounds rang through the air. He used the combined symbols to kill these two creatures. Their tattered bodies fell down onto the bluestone stairs. At this moment, Shahao stood on the battlefield alone, his body and mind clear, as he silently inspected himself. The two types of symbols were intertwining, transforming into one type. He knew that he not only made it through this disaster, there was also a tremendous harvest. In addition, a strand of immortal energy appeared around his body, indicating that he was about to break through on this path. I am almost near the end of my road. I am going to burn my true self with all 3,000 flames. His will was firm, his eyes brilliant. Suddenly, one of them weakly opened their mouth. There was no life aura, nor any spiritual fluctuation. However, these words were spat out with difficulty. The little rabbit jumped extremely quickly, screaming outwards and immediately disappearing. She was truly given quite the fright. Actually still able to speak, this truly is strange. The little fatty said. He was quite daring, squatting down to carefully study them, wishing to study through them. Shahao was quite glad that these two creatures looked different from him. Otherwise, he would have felt extremely uncomfortable inside, as if he was killing himself. That creature then stopped moving, no longer speaking. Road, already broken, reached its end, everything no longer exists. As soon as the little rabbit made its way back over, the other corpse suddenly weakly opened its mouth, giving her such a fright that she jumped straight up. With a su sound, she scuttled behind Qingyi's back. You are scaring this rabbit to death. Can't you two speak together? Why do you have to go one after another just to scare others? She was extremely angry. The grey mist scattered. The two corpses turned into fine powder. There was no flesh or blood as they scattered like smoke into thin air. Apart from this, their bodies' bronze armors and great halberds also split apart inch by inch, turning into bronze fragments. It was as if they had experienced tens of millions of years. Under the endless years and the flow of time, nothing could exist forever. Everything ended in destruction. Shahao rushed into the skies. The halberd in his hands hacked outwards, making that ancient lamp distort and then scatter into mist, disappearing from this place. What exactly was this? What did those two creatures mean when they said those words? Shahao frowned. He could call them a type of natural law, but they clearly had true physical bodies. After the battle, after they were killed, only then did they slowly scatter away. They are just like corpses that have been sealed in an ancient coffin for an extremely long time. They are extremely lifelike at first, but once time goes on, they quickly decay and no longer exist, because they have long been erased along the endless river of time. Cao Yusheng said, You really are nasty. Why do you understand these things? What kind of comparisons are you making? The little rabbit said. When Shahao heard this, he was startled. Where did they come from? Are they really corpses from immortal ancient great era? Why do they always appear like this, carrying out this type of intervention with such dark power? Also, why does it only send out monsters with similar strength as myself? He had many questions, causing him to frown. They aren't corpses from underground. Qingyi frowned. A green flame wrapped around her, and then a strand jumped out, pointing in a direction. They followed after it, arriving outside the 3,000 bluestone paths. The flame suddenly burned through the void, distorting heaven and earth. A terrifying great gap appeared there. Their minds trembled. They looked inside, but there was nothing. Something doesn't seem right. Cao Yusheng spoke. He clearly understood a bit more. It truly is inauspicious. I've seen this type of recording from rare precious bone books. This type of scene doesn't seem good at all. Qingyi nodded, revealing a strange expression. Why? Shahao was shocked. He unexpectedly arrived at the door, about to take that step to complete a true transformation and evolution, yet he instead heard these words. Immortal energy is quite special. Once it is comprehended, it will spurt out at once and surround the body, and not be indistinct like this. Cao Yusheng said. In this great era, the world's natural laws changed. Everyone would reach the end of their lives, no one able to live eternally. Similarly, it was extremely difficult for one to take that step as well. This type of recording, this type of legend, all came from the last great era, things that those of later generations learned of and understood from excavating historical ruins. Why is this the case? Could it be that it is saying that it will be extremely difficult for me to succeed? Shahao frowned. Based on what the bone book said, an indistinct appearance of immortal energy could only mean one thing, and that was that the path he took was too extraordinary, too difficult, impossible to reach the other end. It was because even if they continued traveling this path, it would be extremely difficult to condense true immortal energy, most likely throwing away one's life along the way. When Shahao heard this, he remained silent for a long time. Could it be that he had already reached the end of this path, unable to proceed further? It is just saying that the path is too difficult to cross. That doesn't mean that one is guaranteed to fail, right? Xiahao asked. It does. Qingyi sighed. From what was recorded, the chances of success were extremely small, impossible to succeed. If he continued, it would result in the death of both body and Dao. I will succeed. Xiao's conviction was firm. Don't rashly attempt at it. There might be great problems. Qingyi said. This was something left behind from Immortal Ancient, a conclusion of their predecessors, so there was definitely reasoning behind it. Even if it was Immortal Ancient Great Era where the world's environment still remained unchanged, those who could cultivate immortal energy were still few and far between, requiring one to have heaven-warping talent. The world in this great era was different, everything already changed, and as such, success was just too difficult. I still wanted to cultivate a few strands of immortal energy. How could it be like this? An indistinct strand of immortal energy cannot stop me. I will allow it to truly appear. Xiahao said. The little fatty Cao Yusheng was speechless. He deeply understood the difficulty of this path, and even some ancient freaks had died. How could it be that easy, since the ancient times, the most dazzling people, for example, the ancient freaks, studied era after era, accumulating for such a long time, but it is still difficult for them to succeed. Meanwhile, you want to cultivate many streaks of immortal energy. In reality, based on what he said, he already chose his path, to take that step. He had to cultivate the strand of immortal energy, as that was the reflection of his own Dao fruit. Precisely the so-called one from Dao, you took that step, walked on your own path, that is your Dao. That was why a strand of immortal energy appeared. Cao Yusheng said, regardless, I won't give up. Xiahao said calmly. He insisted on continuing, deciding that he wouldn't give up halfway. During this period of time, he ate quite a few divine and holy medicines, eating them casually like radishes or cabbage. When the 2500th streak of flame appeared, Xiahao encountered a great tribulation, almost dying, burnt until many of his bones broke. It was a truly horrible sight. It was also because of this that endless symbols submerged him, cleansing his body. The fiery light washed his inner organs, making his body even more sturdy. As long as he could make it through, he would naturally receive great benefits. In reality, when the 2500th fiery light surged, the immortal energy around Xiao's body became quite a bit thicker and more solid, as if it truly appeared. Unfortunately, with a pu sound, it still scattered in the end, becoming indistinct. You still all right? The little rabbit asked, handing over a golden ginseng, feeding it to him like a radish. Don't attempt any further already, Qingyi said. This was too dangerous. Just now, Xiahao almost died, and even his eyes were becoming dim. Don't take the risk anymore. Your path is too difficult, there is a problem with it. You shouldn't have to risk your life like this. Cao Yusheng spoke up as well. If others can succeed, then it should be fine for me as well. Xiahao recovered his foundational energy, and then he began to silently think about how to cross this trial. It was clear that this path of his didn't have any quick success, only able to give everything and take one step after another. Success was success, while failure was failure. Of course, failure meant death. Others can succeed, but do you know how many eras they have been preparing for? Qingyi shook her head. Xiahao only had one era. All of his insights and accumulation couldn't compare to those of the ancient freaks at all. Several days ago, I made a trip outside. Several ancient freaks have died again, their bodies and spirits erased, all of them perishing, because they wanted to take that step. Cao Yusheng said, too terrifying. You should just learn my natural Dao. The little rabbit also tried to dissuade him. Has anyone cultivated more than a single strand of immortal energy? Xiahao asked. Those people all became speechless. His situation was dangerous, and if he continued like this, his body and Dao would definitely disappear, yet he was still asking this kind of question. Indeed, however, one needs great natural luck rarely seen since ancient times. Increasing immortal energy is too difficult. This time, Xiahao was burnt until he was half crippled. Even though he passed a death tribulation, the immortal energy was still indistinct, not truly appearing. It took him a long time, before he finally slowly recovered. It really was a bit strange, however. The strange and ominous existence never arrived, so it was rather peaceful. 2,700 streaks of fiery lights burned. Xiahao almost melted, his flesh in tatters, bones scorched black, even his primordial spirit about to scatter. Endless symbols surged, about to break him apart and turn him to dust. This time, the immortal energy strengthened a bit, but still ultimately scattered. I am unwilling to let it end like this. 2,800 streaks. He was unconscious for half a month, his flesh about to rot away, primordial spirit dim without light. Luckily, he had the supreme being liquid that wrapped around his primordial spirit, protecting his life, allowing him to quickly recover. The divine striking stone said with a sigh. The supreme being liquid came from spirit realm. Shahao had previously climbed to the very top, the stone bowl of sparkling liquid absorbed by him. In the end, Shahao revived. After his injuries were healed, he still refused to give up. 2,900 streaks of fiery light surged, burning the 9 heavens and illuminating the sky. What, this time, he succeeded. Those individuals cried out strangely. A strand of immortal energy spilled out, pure white and clear. That was the fruit of the great Tao, an embodiment of one from Tao. It truly appeared, and it wrapped around Shahao. It's finished, finally making it through the tribulation of death. I hope everything will go smoothly and perfectly. Qingyi was also overjoyed, her beautiful eyes flickering with luster. This was truly an incredibly grand event. For Immortal Ancient, whenever anyone took that step, it would signify extremely profound effects, relating to many people's lives and deaths. Once one succeeded, they wouldn't need to fear group battles. No matter how great the numbers, no one could kill the one who produced immortal energy. He was now truly a king, those of this generation unable to stop him. These types of existences' futures were impossible to estimate. Ha ha, the divine striking stone laughed crazily, crying out, let's go back and deal with all of those sex people, purge them one by one and steal all of their divine materials. It wished for the whole world to be in chaos, desiring all types of divine stones, wishing to use them to evolve. Only the void sky divine vine said with a trembling voice. Careful, the closer one is to success, the more dangerous it is. That thing will come again. It had previously experienced it, remembering the events of the past, making it feel lingering fear even now. Shahao succeeded, but he suffered serious injuries, almost dying. His body was burnt black both inside and outside, all 5 main internal organs releasing strand after strand of light smoke. His skeleton was about to split apart. This was an omen of being burnt to waste. His injuries were too severe. If it was anyone else, they would have definitely died. There was no way they would still be alive. The withered body was like a skeleton, cracked skin covering his bones, all vitality gone. If not for the pure white strand of immortal energy revolving around him, it would truly be hard for one to believe that this was a hero who could overlook Immortal Ancient. His situation was utterly terrible, a lamp out of oil. If anyone attacked him now, he might be directly cut down. An ancient lamp appeared, faint and indistinct as it moved over. The grey-colored mists seemed to gather from beyond the 3,000 bluestone paths, richer and more boundless than before. The pressure it released was suffocating. In that instant, Qingyi, Cao Yusheng, and the little rabbit's fine hair stood on end, feeling chills run down their bodies from head to toe. This was a life and death trial, just like facing a god of death, as if they had fallen into the underworld. They were all shivering in fear. This kind of feeling was too terrifying. They vaguely felt as if they had already been pulled into the depths of death, that it would be hard for them to continue living. All of you, back off. Shahao said. He swallowed the half ginseng fruit with difficulty, surrounding his body with its brilliance to heal his injured body. He knew that he now encountered huge trouble. In the next instant, the pure white mist became one with the supreme being blood. The two merged together, thus disappearing. Shahao was stupefied. There was actually this kind of situation that happened. He was a bit confused, but when he inspected his body, he found that it was hazy, a bit indistinct, only returning to normal after a bit of time. It was clear that the supreme being blood became even more resplendent, not looking like blood, but instead like scarlet red metal liquid that was flowing. There was a wave of mysterious aura that surrounded him. How do you feel? Those people felt extremely anxious as they loudly asked. I don't feel anything. Shahao said. He truly didn't feel anything different. It was just like in the past. However, he saw that strand of energy disappear with his own eyes, entering his body. Be careful, those things are closing in. Cao Yusheng reminded. Yi, they stopped again. The little rabbit was shocked. The mists no longer surged, and those creatures slowly came to a stop. It was a bit strange. Even the ancient lamp in the void swayed, and then it became indistinct. Suddenly, the large amounts of grey mist scattered silently, and those creatures left into the distance, entering a great crack in the void, disappearing from this place. The ancient lamp also disappeared. Peace was restored to the bluestone paths. This left everyone stunned. There was actually something like this that happened. They thought you failed, feeling that you weren't worth getting rid of. The little rabbit guessed. The others nodded, agreeing with this type of speculation. However, they truly couldn't explain it. Of course, the most shocking thing was the transformation of Shahao's immortal energy. It really was difficult for them to feel happy or regretful for him. That immortal energy scattered, signifying that this was another failure. However, it was also because of this that he passed this trial of death. However, they were still rather expectant. That wave of energy entered his body, so will there be some strange transformation? Shahao sat there, carefully inspecting his body. The Supreme Being blood was exceptionally translucent, but there wasn't anything different about it. The mysterious aura already disappeared as well. It became just like before. What a waste. You clearly succeeded. So why did this kind of thing happen? The divine striking stone was upset, complaining for Shahao. It seems like the good thing. Suddenly, Cao Yusheng thought of something and said, "You understand what happened? Hurry and tell us." Qingyi said, "I seem to have seen some type of written account," Cao Yusheng said. There was an engraving left behind on a damaged cauldron excavated from some immortal ancient ruins describing how the path a genius walked was too difficult, and after cultivating immortal energy, his body and spirit were almost completely destroyed. However, strange things happened. The immortal energy broke up into parts and was absorbed by the body, giving him nourishment and life. Simply speaking, the immortal energy repaired his dying body, but it also disappeared because of it. Can we really just call this being unlucky? The divine striking stone said. This was just too miserable. The immortal energy cultivated so painstakingly was used up to save a life. Shahao's circumstances were similar. Just now, his injuries were too severe. If not for the Supreme Being liquid he obtained from Spirit Realm protecting him, he might have also died. The immortal energy would have scattered to repair his body. Cao Yusheng said in theory, he failed, but he did absorb that type of thing after all. No one knows what kind of strange changes might happen. The bronze engravings didn't record what happened afterwards to that heaven-warping talent. Qingyi asked, died. Even though those circumstances appeared and he lived, he was targeted by an unmatched individual and studied, ultimately killed. The little fatty said. In the depths of his flesh, wisps of light could be seen, calm and unmoving, laying dormant within. Even with the heavenly eye, it was still a bit blurry, but he was now sure that those were flames that were extremely familiar. He had seen these before. It actually ran into my body. I never noticed it all this time. It didn't injure me. Shahao was extremely shocked. He had previously seen a flame next to the 9 coffins that was incomparably mysterious. It had previously forced away the green lunar flame, so one could very well imagine how powerful and immeasurable it was. He had previously heard Qi Daolin grumble indistinctly to himself that this flame could burn all evils, purge heaven and earth. From a certain perspective, it couldn't be considered a flame, because it was made out of symbols. The only reason they called it a flame was because the mysterious symbols shone. They merged together and looked like flames. How was he supposed to summon it and transfer it? These mysterious symbols contained tremendous secrets. If he could comprehend through them, he might have a solution to all of the auspicious and strange things. No matter how many came, he might be able to burn through them all. Shahao tried to communicate with it, but it didn't move, laying dormant. For the next few days, Shahao's divine senses permeated into his body, roaming about these mysterious symbols. He wanted to have it revive, so he could communicate with it. However, he was disappointed, unable to obtain the slightest bit of progress. Following a light sigh, Shahao got up. He walked down from the Tao Comprehension Stone and looked into the distance. Qingyi, please burn me with your green lunar flame. He suddenly said this. Did you go stupid? The little rabbit said inarticulately while nibbling on a holy medicine, looking at him with her widened eyes. Qingyi and Cao Yusheng were stunned as well. The origins of the green ancient flame were astonishing, born in immortal ancient, known as an immortal seed left behind by the matchless true immortal Qingyu. Using it to burn oneself, there was definitely no good result from it. The reason why Qingyi was okay was because this flame acknowledged her. They coexisted with each other, and she had a chance of obtaining its inheritance. Don't worry, it'll be fine as long as it's a bit weaker. I have something inside of me that I need to test out. Shahao said. When Qingyi found out that the other flame was in Shahao's body, she couldn't help but feel stunned. There was actually this type of thing that happened. A strand of green flame seeped out, slowly approaching Shahao's body, extremely gentle. It entered his body, pure like green moonlight. It hurts so much. Shahao grimaced. As soon as he got closer, his flesh felt like it was being hacked by blades. He felt incomparable pain. Qingyi carefully controlled it. Having the flame calm down, the offensive power decreased. She moved it closer to the region where the mysterious flame lay dormant. Suddenly, multicolored light flashed, symbols shining resplendently. The green lunar flame retreated on its own, not proceeding further. It was useless even if she tried to control it. Shahao sighed. It seems like he can't really depend on this flame anymore. There was no way unless he acted recklessly, splitting apart his own body and defending himself with that area of his flesh. Only, that was too miserable. Since there were others who were able to pass this trial, then I can as well. I have to think of a way to tread on this path. Shahao temporarily gave up on that thought. The flame was the final hand he was most reluctant to play. If there was still a possibility, he wouldn't use it. It was because even if he split apart his own body, if those symbols didn't want to move, there was still a chance that it wouldn't help him. All those who were able to succeed since the ancient time, without exception, had to use that streak of immortal energy. As long as you can persevere on, when you can control it on your own, you can defeat everyone in your way. Cao Yusheng said. The lunar jade hair rolled its eyes, not paying him any more attention. Right now, regardless of whether it was Qingyi or the divine striking stone, none of them could offer much help, only able to worry. However, the little fatty Cao Yusheng's inheritance was strange, and he knew quite a bit. Shahao didn't act rashly. He continued to observe the Supreme Being blood, because he always felt like that strand of immortal energy didn't scatter, and was instead absorbed inside. There was no way there were no changes at all. He waited patiently. Half a month later, he finally discovered something different with his martial Dao heavenly eye. A new type of symbol has started to appear, evolving, forming, and tangling together. Shahao was shocked. Apart from heaven's hand and reincarnation symbols merging, a third type of symbol appeared in his Supreme Being blood, only, it was still in its beginning stages, difficult to be sure what kind of ability it had exactly. He poured all of his concentration into this, silently observing and carefully sensing the changes. For him, this was a completely new experience. He was witnessing the birth process of an extremely powerful precious technique. He could vaguely see the origins and development of the road of cultivation. His primordial spirit was completely immersed, carefully observing and silently receiving enlightenment. This type of development was extremely hard to obtain for cultivators. However, how many people could accomplish this? The number of people who had heavenly eyes were pitifully few to begin with, and after obtaining them, how could they encounter this type of opportunity, personally witnessing the birth of an unmatched technique? Observing, experiencing this type of evolution, for Shahao, was the opening of a new world. For him, it possessed unimaginable meaning. The road of cultivation, the path of origins, the path of ascension, is similar as well. It is just like this, established bit by bit, and only then will it flourish like today. After who knew how much time had passed, the Supreme Being blood gradually calmed down, and those symbols stopped their transformation, entering a state of hibernation. A third unmatched technique was, without a doubt, going to take form. It only needed time. As such, Shahao closed his eyes, his mind carefully thinking for an extremely long time. Only after that did he walk down from the Tao Comprehension Stone feeling incredibly enriched, his harvest great. There will be a day when I will establish a completely new cultivation method, one different from the immortal ancient Great Era, one that is different from that of the present Great Era as well, a completely different path that will transcend above. Shahao said quietly. This type of thought emerged in his mind. When the others heard him, they all became petrified. What kind of boldness was this? Was he going to produce an entirely different cultivation system? They felt that it wasn't realistic. Opening a different path was harder than climbing to heaven. Immortal ancient Great Era had immortal seed inheritances. This Great Era cultivated bone texts, so it was difficult for them to imagine what other types of paths there could be. Could other systems even appear? The road is long. Right now, I can only accumulate experience, only have a few vague thoughts, powerless to do anything now. However, in the future, that day will come. Shahao said. Suddenly, a streak of lightning hacked down from the heavens, blasting him until he flew outwards, his body dripping with blood. The lightning was terrifying to the extreme. If it was anyone else, they would have definitely turned into ashes. However, Shahao stuck it through. The little rabbit was stupefied, and then it shouted, "Look, you were speaking randomly. See, you were even struck by lightning." The divine striking stone, Qingyi, and Cao Yuxing's expressions changed. Their minds were greatly shaken. This great era was already without lightning tribulation, disappearing with the end of the last great era. However, right now, it unexpectedly appeared again. The bluestone path's Tao flames burned the 9 heavens, the world rumbling. A furnace was condensed, wrapping around Shahao. The symbols of 3,000 great Tao turned into flames, carrying out a refinement. This place rumbled with Tao sound, shaking heaven and earth. This type of unrest was unprecedented, exceeding all of their predictions. The divine striking stone even set a formation to isolate this place, but boundless ripples still traveled in all directions, spreading outwards. After who knew how much time had passed, Shahao released a roar. Even though his entire body was burnt black, there was a forceful wave of vitality that surged outwards. His gaze looked even more like cold electricity. He already got up. Even though he was seriously injured this time, his body in a terrible state, it wasn't as serious as they had imagined. The inside of his body was shining. Soon after, a great power surged from inside outwards, recovering his injured body, the rays of light resplendent. He felt more powerful than he had ever been before, advancing quite greatly. He didn't even use the half ginseng fruit, yet his body was already roughly recovered, making it through the refinement of the flames. A strand of immortal energy also appeared, wrapped around him like a true dragon, moving around his body, making him look aloof and transcendent. He succeeded. Shahao didn't waste any time. He asked Qingyi, the little rabbit, and the others to send over the medicines. He quickly devoured them to recover his body to its optimal state. It was because the ominous was already approaching, reaching outside the bluestone paths. This time, it wasn't quite the same. It wasn't grey fog, but rather pitch black, ink-like streams of energy. There was a deathly stillness. It lacked life force. One could see that several figures were closing in. The ancient lamp suspended in the sky, releasing chilly radiance. This time, the number of figures that appeared was a bit different, unexpectedly less of them towering in the black fog. Did the difficulty decrease? Even heaven seems to want to help him. The divine striking stone muttered, revealing a happy expression, "Let's hope that is the case." Cao Yuxing said. However, soon after, they closed their mouths, revealing a concentrated expression. They stared forward with disbelief. The first figure that appeared was tall and sturdy, eyes resplendent. On his back was a pair of pitch-black wings that carried golden patterns. Heavens, those are Kuan-Peng wings, only, the colors seems a bit off. The little rabbit cried out with shock. There was no mistaking that energy. The second creature appeared, black-colored lightning wrapped around it, its body carrying pitch-black bloodstains, as if it had just withdrawn from the battlefield, the armor on its body full of holes. Don't tell me that it is created in the Lightning Emperor's image, right? The divine striking stone stuttered. The third creature walked out, its body curling with waves of heaven tribulation light. The fourth creature walked out. It looked quite strange. It appeared to be changing from an elder to a child, continuously changing, as if it was undergoing reincarnation. No matter who saw this result, all of their minds would tremble. Such a powerful group of people, clearly the result of precious techniques displayed to their limit, working together to suppress Shahao. A single one of these creatures could overlook the world while moving, showing disdain towards all others at their level. Now that 4 of them walked together, how could they be stopped? The black fog rushed over, spreading over the 3,000 ancient paths, filling this place with coldness and killing intent. 4 powerful experts walked closer step by step, all of their auras astonishing. They revealed their true appearances. They weren't bodies covered with bronze armor, different from what they had seen in the past. One wore feathered clothes, another an armor that was full of holes, all of them vivid and lifelike. These people's eyes were full of radiance, not stiff and inflexible like the ones before. When they opened and closed their eyes, astonishing radiance could be seen, as if they had life. This made people tremble inwardly. The situation was not looking good. Qingyi, Cao Yuxing, and the little rabbit were all quite worried, but they couldn't offer any help. They backed up, only able to watch this battle. Shahao didn't produce a weapon, standing there unarmed, because he knew that this was a confrontation of precious techniques, a competition of the flesh. External objects were useless. If he really did bring out a weapon, then it might very likely be destroyed. The 4 great experts were too extraordinary, all of them incomparably terrifying. Even though the enemy was extremely powerful, Shahao still had to fight. This was the final trial. Once he made it through, he would be like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon, becoming a king. If he failed, then his body and Tao would be erased, no longer existing in this world. A battle of life or death, whether the road ahead would be glorious, everything rested on this battle. He had no way out, so he had to have confidence, kill them all. Shahao shouted, taking the initiative to attack. He leapt up into the skies. An enormous pair of Kuan-Peng wings appeared behind him, the golden feathers carrying black-colored stripes, covering heaven and earth. He displayed the Kuan-Peng's technique to its limit. All sides were shaken, the void splitting apart. He fought against these 4 great experts alone, fighting against me with my Kuan-Peng technique. What was frightening was that the black-colored Kuan-Peng winged male on the other side actually spoke. His eyes were resplendent, making others alarmed. Does he have intelligence? Is it a complete creature, not one controlled by a mysterious power? In the rear, the divine striking stone cried out strangely while trembling greatly, kill. Shahao didn't move. A myriad of symbols appeared from the Kuan-Peng wings, shining with brilliance. It was as if endless stars smashed over from beyond, blasting down on the 4 great experts before him. Break. That person released a low roar. Black-colored Kuan-Peng wings appeared, moving about, smashing into his golden wings. This was like a collision of heaven and earth, the sounds enormous. It was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. The feathers of these 2 individuals' wings flew everywhere, continuously falling, carrying traces of blood. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.